Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC 244. Masvidal vs. Diaz for the BMF belt in the UFC. The first and only, according to Dana White, in the UFC. This pay-per-view was just awesome from top to bottom. The first prelim to the main event. This card is definitely one of the best major UFC cards in recent memory. A lot of unpredictable fights on the main card and some very unpredictable fights on the prelims. I'm kind of debating which one I enjoyed more because there was some good fights on both the prelims and main card. So as a post-fight rundown of the main card, and let's get started. In the lightweight division to kick off the main card, we had Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. And you know what? I was talking to a fellow fight fan when I was watching this fight at a sports bar, and I said, "Oh, Gregor Gillespie, he has this. He's undefeated." And he's like, "No. Kevin Lee is going to win. He's been training at TriStar." And I'm like, "Well, okay. We'll see." And Kevin Lee, KO head kick. Man, Kevin Lee looked amazing. He needed this win bad, and I think the mix-up in his training really paid off. And I mean, it showed dramatically in this fight. Kevin Lee ended the undefeated streak of Gregor Gillespie and got a massive win in lightweight division. Kevin Lee's definitely back, and I would say he's like 2 to 3 big wins from being in the title picture again. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Then in the heavyweight division, we had Derek Lewis versus Luque Ivanov. And yeah, I had Derek Lewis on this one, and he won, but not the way I expected. It was a decision, split decision win for Derek Lewis, and this fight was kind of back and forth. I mean, you could argue, well, Luque had more takedowns, but then it looked like when Lewis popped up, he was landing some heavy shots, and it was just impressive win for Derek Lewis, nonetheless. But it was a close fight, and I like Luque and I like Derek Lewis, but Lewis being a fellow Texan doesn't always hurt to see that happen. So Derek Lewis definitely needed this win after losing to JDS and losing the title fight to DC back when DC was champ. So Derek Lewis got a big, hard-fought victory. Then in the welterweight division, we had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Vicente Luque. This one I definitely got wrong. Vicente Luque I thought was just going to walk in there, use heavy shots, deal with the striking of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, eventually work his way into Stephen's reach and knock him out. That didn't exactly happen. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just cleanly outlanded Vicente Luque on at least 2 of the rounds, if not all 3. I would have to double check the stats on that, but Stephen Wonderboy Thompson won a clean, unequivocal, unanimous decision in this fight. I mean, the strikes were just so lopsided. So Stephen Wonderboy Thompson definitely needed this win, and it was a big win for a guy that at his age at welterweight, and also a guy in that Vicente Luque is a lot younger than him. So it's interesting to see where Stephen Wonderboy goes from here. Then in the middleweight division, in the co-main event, we had Darren Till versus Kelvin Gastelum. Man, you know what? I thought Gastelum was just going to go in there and knock out Darren Till, clinch up with him, and then land some uppercuts, land some heavy right hooks, and just demolish Darren Till. Didn't exactly happen like that. There's a lot of clinching though, and Darren Till looked good in the clinch. And just, the leg kicks, there was some good leg kicks from Kelvin Gastelum in this fight, but the overall head strikes look good for Darren Till, and in my opinion, that's what got him the victory here. Darren Till won, split decision, but yeah, this fight was, it was my least favorite on the main card. I was hoping for more, but I think Kelvin will be back, and Darren Till looks good at 185 thus far. Then in the main event, we had in the welterweight division for the BMF belt, Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz. This one, it was like the most predictable fight for me on the whole main card. Jorge just went in there and won every round decisively, the first 3 rounds, because then after that the doctor stopped it. And it was TKO, doctor stoppage at the end of round 3. And yeah, like if this fight went on for another 2 rounds, Jorge probably would have won at least one more round and then won maybe even the 5th round. And even if he lost the next 2 rounds, he cleanly won the first 3 rounds and would have won a decision anyways. So unless Nate Diaz was going to pull hat, some sort of rabbit out of a hat, so to speak, and get a submission finish or a knockout in the 4th or 5th rounds, it was just the judges were going to sway it towards Jorge Masvidal, and so Jorge Masvidal wins by TKO, round 3, doctor stoppage. Well, end of round 3, doctor stoppage, and Jorge is now the BMF champ. And The Rock put the belt around him, and it was also just again iconic to see the President of the United States at a UFC event, which has never happened in the history of the UFC and mixed martial arts. Really, I mean, any major promotion, mixed martial arts, or even minor promotion in mixed martial arts, never had a sitting U.S. president at its event. So that was pretty historic. No matter what you think of the current president, that is very historic and monumental in our sports history. And I hope everyone, no matter what your beliefs are, just treasure that moment in a sense, in that regards. So yeah, great fight, memorable moments, and just wow, historic event. Great fights. So anyways, that wraps up my post-fight show for this main card. Stay tuned for my pre-fight for Kattar versus Magomed Shapirov. And also, I just want to say I'm so happy that the LFA is on UFC Fight Pass now. That's historic. I'm so happy about that. In my opinion, they're one of the biggest leagues out there outside the UFC. And to see them in UFC Fight Pass is just awesome. Anyways, so that wraps up my post-fight show for this card. And as always, until then, see ya.